Hello, I'm Alan. Welcome to the Guitar Shack, and indeed welcome to the new Guitar Shack because this is my new workshop that I've just moved into this week after about a month's worth of putting it all together. So today's video is an unboxing and investigation, bit of a strip down on a Telecaster. It's always a Telecaster that I managed to pick up on eBay this morning for a very good price. It's a bit rough, so we're going to get into it and see what we've actually got. So I think it's fair to say that when you just bought a Telecaster, you know it's probably going to be quite rough when you realise that the first thing you're going to have to do with it is to shave the case. That's pretty special. Okay, so what have we got? We have got a 2002 three-tone sunburst Mexican Telecaster, which is in need of some love, which is fine. That's what it's here for. It's got either some wear or some dodgy relicing. What is it about brown sunbursts that people want to relic them? Not entirely sure why. That would be a very odd playing position to generate that wear naturally, but who knows. All seems to be complete. It's got a fair amount of chips around the body, but the neck is okay as far as I can tell. And one of the interesting discoveries is in the case I've got the original wiring loom. So it looks like it's had a replacement loom, which could be an upgrade or it could just be a replacement. Who knows? So I'll get in and have a look at that. Which makes me wonder whether there's anything else going on, like new pickups. So I'll have a look at that as well. But this is going to go through my process. This is quite worn from a bodywork point of view. I'm slightly tempted to strip this completely and refinish it. Not sure yet. Watch this space. So I've got so much dust and crap on here that the first thing I'm going to do is hoover it. But the neck's pretty good shape. The frets are not bad. No bit of grubbiness, but no major dinks or chunks out of it. So that's a good start. Bit of wear around the edges. Let's just have a quick delve under this control plate and we'll see what we've got. So we've got alpha pots, an orange drop, and a wafer switch, but good quality one. That's quite a decent wiring job. So I've confirmed the part numbers, and those pickups are indeed USA standard pickups from round about the same early 2000s era. They're Nico 5, really decent pickups, they sound great. And this wiring kit, or this wiring loom, looks very much like one of the pre-built ones that you get from various UK-based suppliers, or indeed the kit that it comes with that. But the fact that it's got new knobs and control plate makes me think it's all built up. and it's all good quality components. I've had a few of these. Orange drop, nicely done. So that the pickups and the wiring is the definite benefit, and a pleasant surprise on this one. I have another almost identical brown three-tone sunburst telly on sale at the moment, and it's also had some relicing work done, but it's much, much more subtle and it's much smoother. So even though I'm fairly certain it was somebody who attacked it with some sandpaper, they did so in a far better way, a far more attractive way than this. So I think this isn't something I could live with. This is something that I am going to start by stripping it and then see where I go from there. But you can see the relicing that's been done around the horn, and then on the lower bout, and it's come straight through to the wood. The thing is, it's obviously just been done with some fairly rough grit sandpaper. It's not even close to looking as if it was original. And of course, it's a poly-finished Mexican Telecaster. This doesn't happen naturally. I think the other surprise on this one is that I'm pretty sure this pickguard has actually been spray painted rather than just replaced. So it would have been white originally. And that explains why it's white on the edges where the paint has worn. So the time and effort to spray paint a pickguard as opposed to just buying a new one off eBay for a tenner is quite something to behold. So nothing untoward inside the cavity. We've got a date stamp for August 2002, so that's fine. Yeah, all the usual marks and stickers for no issues with this. It's the original neck. Hasn't been monkeyed with, so probably been off and on a few times, but done properly. And the neck itself is, well, the neck and the electronics really are really good. It's just the bodywork that lets this one down. It's got a bit of wear. It's the 2002. They had the smaller frets. They didn't go jumbo frets until what, 2006. So I quite like these. There's a little bit of wear on them, but level crown and polish will sort that out. Give them a good clean, give it a good polish up, and yeah, this will be good. So for now, the night I'll go back on it. I'll loosen off the truss rod since the strings are off, and then I'll hang it on the wall for a while I decide what I'm doing. Okay, see you back for part 2 once I get into it sometime soon. So cracking on with a project here that I haven't done anything with for a while. So this is the Telecaster body that came as part of a telly that I purchased, nearly a year ago I guess. Badly damaged around the edges. I did some playing around with glue boost, seeing whether it was possible to build up a finish. I came to the conclusion that it was too badly damaged and it just wasn't really going to work out very well. So my plan B is that I'm going to strip it and see whether I can make something better off of the bare wood. So got to get my heat gun out and have a go at that. So I had stripped a few Fender necks before, but this was the first time I had done one of these polyurethane finished Mexican bodies. So it was a little bit of an experiment and I was working on my technique. What I found at the start was that using a little bit too much heat and actually bubbling the finish and lifting the finish off left a kind of sticky residue which didn't come off all that easily, and which was ended up slightly singeing the wood underneath. So I very quickly moved on to this second and much more successful technique, which was just to warm it up and then to use effectively the edge of the scraper, not full on, but using the corner really just to lift it in little parts. And then I was able to quite quickly get it all to come off very cleanly. So what you see for the rest of this part of the video is really just working in small sections and using the corner, which doesn't dig in. I was worried about that, but it doesn't, because you're laying it flat on the body itself, but it just comes away very cleanly. So moving on to the back, I started it off at the screw holes, and then from that I was able to just sort of work my way outwards. Then moving around the edges, I was a little bit concerned about how these would work, but perhaps because it's the the very flat-sided shape of the Telecaster body, but it was much easier than I actually thought, and I quite quickly got all the way around, and then even on the chamfered corners, it came off pretty cleanly. So overall, I know a lot of people have talked about different processes for stripping one of these bodies, but I have to say this was exceptionally straightforward. And if you're going to do one of these, I think heat is definitely the way to go. So after much stripping and much sanding, this is what I've ended up with. So it's basically got quite a nice grain on the veneer, which I think will come up quite nicely. And then obviously, being a Mexican, it's got lots of different parts in it. But this is sanded down to 150, and I think there's enough figuring in this that it's going to look pretty good in a transparent finish. So I'm going to Tru Oil it. And then because it's got a humbucker route, I think I'll put a humbucker in it, and a black guard, and I'll clean up the neck, but I won't do any repairs on the finish. And with Tru Oil finish, this will have a nice sort of relic-y vibe about it, but it won't be a rubbish relic. And then we'll see where we get to. So the Tru Oil was equally easy to work with, just thin coats applied with a rag with the grain and build it up slowly. So here's where I've got to with the Tru Oil. This is, I think, 7 coats. Applied the first couple with sandpaper to sort of grain fill, and then I've just been applying them straight after that. It's got a fair amount of gloss to it, actually, more than I was expecting. I don't want it too glossy, so I might actually leave it at this kind of level. So what do I think? Well, the overall grain has popped quite nicely. I mean, obviously, this is this is not designed to be under an oiled finish. You've got the different coloration of the solid wood in the body, but I actually think it looks pretty good. And then similarly, I've got a couple of areas, particularly down the bottom, where the wood got a bit singed during the stripping process. Now, I had sanded that pretty, so it was almost invisible. So I was quite surprised at how much it's actually come up in the Tru Oil. But again, I think built up with all the components on it, and given that it's meant to be a bit relict, it'll go with the overall kind of Barncastery kind of vibe. So let's see. This is the back, similar sort of thing. So the veneer came up nicely. So I don't know, I mean, I quite like this darker sides look. Some people will hate it, so we'll just see how it goes. And again, I've got these little bits down at the bottom where it got a bit singed, and I don't know, next time I do one I might try bleaching that or something else. Obviously the different sections of the wood show up under the oil as well. But overall I think this looks pretty cool. So while I'm waiting for the body to cure, the next thing to sort out is the neck. So two issues really. One is just it needs a fret job. You can see the indentations. I mean, they're not terrible, but a level crown and polish will bring this back to scratch. And then the second is, this is a 2002 Mexican Telecaster neck, and they had an issue with finish in those days, and like many of them, this has got a little bit of finish lifting on the headstock. You can just see where it's bubbled up. It's actually broken through there, and then a few bits over here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip the neck, and then I'm going to flow in or let creep in some very thin super glue, and what that will do will be it will stabilise those parts, and although it won't be invisible, it'll look just like it's got a little bit of figured wood there, so it should look pretty good. And here's it a lot more clear after the tuners come off. So I'm going to get in and stabilise all of that. As I say, it's quite common on Fender necks of this vintage, and I've had a lot worse. In fact, I've got a Strat neck from a couple of years previous to this, which I had to strip back to the bare wood, which I've still got to get around to refretting and then refinishing in nitro. But this one is okay, we can stabilise that, and the good news is none of it's on the front under the decals, so that's where it looks the worst, so that's fine. I always have a slight bee in my bonnet about bridges because they're generally the mankiest part of a second-hand guitar, so I always strip them right down to individual components, and use a bit of WD-40 on all the screws to make them move, and then make sure that everything's really clean with glass cleaner to get it shiny and reassemble it back. And then we're into installing the pickups. So I use IronGear a lot. Really good quality pickups, very cheap, and in my view, pretty much in the same league as some of the more well-known brands. Telecasters are nice and straightforward because obviously you can sub-assemble the pickups onto the bridge and the pick guard off the guitar so that they're then ready for assembly. So from a production point of view, that's quite nice. The downside, of course, is that you're always trying to fit them with the little springs or the rubber tubing and get your screws through those and into the pickup themselves, which can be pretty fiddly. And I've lost more than one screw over the years, so if anybody's got any good tips on how to reliably make that work well, then let me know. So cracking on with this, we've got the body's now done. So this has had, I think, 8 thin coats of Tru Oil. So it's got a bit of a gloss to it, which is quite nice, but it's also Still got a bit of grain, which is perfect. That's what I was looking for. I didn't want it looking as if the finish was supposed to be perfect, because the body itself is certainly not. But I think it's come up okay. Quite pleased with this. So let's get the mock up and see where we've got to. So first things first, I've got the bridge with the IronGear pickup, steel foundry. So this will be fitted in here. I've still got to put in a ground wire, obviously. So that fits to the original holes. I've then got the pick guard with the IronGear rolling mill. So PAF style, it's not all that hot, or a kind of classic rock pickup. So I'm not going to, it's 4-wire conductor, but I'm not going to bother splitting it because I don't think I would ever use it split. So I don't really see the point. So let's see how that fits in there. So that's a Music Lily guard, which are cheap as chips and fit perfectly. So that fits to all the original holes. And then I've got the original scratch plate, or control plate, which will go back in its original holes. It'll fit with the pick guard, so that's fine. I'm going to keep that switch. I'm going to replace these pots. They need to be 500k with the humbucker, and then what I do is I put in an extra 500k resistor in line with the switch and the bridge pickup, and that means that the pickup sounds like it's going through a 250k. Don't ask me why that works, because I don't understand the electrics of it, but it does work. So that's the wiring I'm going to be doing. And then the original neck. So this needs to be fitted, this needs to be level, crowned and polished. That'll be the next job. So that's broadly what it's going to look like. So quite a traditional colour scheme, not quite a Barncaster, not quite a Micawberish clone, somewhere in the middle, and that's what I was going for. These Mexican bodies don't have the little hole for the bridge grounding wires, so I've done it the same way as Fender do, and I've put a ground wire directly onto the bridge plate, held in place by the bridge pickup spring. So here's the wiring with the newborn 500k pots and an ons drop. Standard 3-way Telecaster wiring, individual grounds on the back of the volume pot. And the only thing which is unusual is we've got this little resistor just in here, which goes from the neck pickup input and then grounds it there. And then other than that, we've got the option to split the coils later. We've just got the middle wires taped off. So if I feel like it, I can always put in a little switch there, or I can just swap this one out for a push pull. But as I say, I'm very unlikely to use the split coil anyway, so I'm just going to leave it as it is and see how that works for a while. Then of course the proof is in the pudding, so bridge, sorry, neck, no bridge, bridge and neck, bridge, no neck. Volume working, tone working. All good. And then the most satisfying part of any new pick guard is peeling it off. same with my new humbucker. So onto the fret job, it's always the same process. So flatten the neck and then tape it up, and then use a long flat leveling bar to flatten the tops of them, and then I go over them all with a crowning file to restore the shape back to them. I then sort of sand out the sanding marks and go up through the grits with a polishing kit with 4 different grades, so that by the time you get to the end they're really shiny. So that's the fret job done. Came up nicely, and they weren't all that worn, so they've got plenty of meat left in them after the level crown and polish. So next up we're just going to do the finish repairs on these bubbles, and then that'll be the neck ready to go back on. So with the repairs all done, then get a couple of coats of axe wax onto it to give it a bit of luster before I reassemble it all. And then the tuners were in good shape, so it's just a question of cleaning them and polishing them up and getting them reinstalled. Then we've got the string tree and the ferrules back in and getting the neck back on. And then we're on to the string up and setup process. I won't bore you with all of it. Many of my other videos do show the step-by-step setup process, so please have a look at any of those if you're interested. So, quick and dirty setup. Obviously I've set it in 5-string open G. It's not meant to be a slavish Micawber copy, not even close, but it's just a guitar that I'm probably going to leave in open G and play a bit of Stones on, so I think it's turned out okay. So a few sounds. I've got a slightly dirty amp, bit of overdrive in there. So this is the bridge pickup. Then the two together. And then the humbucker in the neck. So I think middle. Now, I think nobody actually knows how Keith has his guitars wired, but I think most people think it's kind of a bit of a blend of, he's got a Barncaster pickup, so it's quite a hot Tele style pickup in the bridge, and obviously he's got an original PAF in there, and I think a lot of the guesswork is that there's some kind of a blend going on rather than a tone. I haven't done that. I've left this as a standard control configuration. If we go onto a clean, so the humbucker is definitely a lot thicker in clean. Need to EQ that a little bit, I think. It's nice in the middle. So that's what it sounds like. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this one yet. I bought it really cheap. The state of it was commensurate with how little I paid for it. And I think the state of the finish on the body, it needed work. I think that this is, I don't know, I like it. It's got a bit of a kind of rustic charm to it. It is all the original guitar. It's not a parts caster. Obviously, it's been refinished. Obviously, it's not a body that was designed to be clear coated. So, there are much nicer looking natural finish Telecasters out there, but I think it's got a vibe about it. So, I like it, and I wanted to have an SH configuration one to mess around with for a while anyway. So I'll probably try it on the website and see if there's any interest in it. It's you would need to want to have this Telecaster, wouldn't you? But I think it sounds good. It plays really well. Obviously, you've seen what I've done to it. It's immaculate in terms of how it's set up, the fretwork, been rewired, good components, decent pickups. And in the past, I have done a couple of player series where I've got butterscotch, and I've put in this combination of pickups and wired it this way. And I've sold a couple of those. I think those that there is a market out there for SH Telecasters, and I can't remember the last time I saw a butterscotch player series with an SH. I think they tend to be more of the solid colours. So it might be that this is exactly what somebody's been looking for. So let's wait and see. And in the meantime, I'm going to have some fun with it. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you back in the shack soon. So this guitar is now up for sale on my Reverb shop. If you just go to reverb.com and search for Alan's Guitar Shack. Alternatively, my website is alansguitarshack.com. Hope to see you there. Thanks a lot.